Hello, friends. Welcome to our new episode of Zessions. I'm Dr. Sapna Srivastava,
And I am Mandi Roarke.
and we are both marriage and family therapists, and we're also friends and also
That's right.
co-founders of Zesho. If you're not familiar with what Zesho is a mental health platform that Mandy and I started. It's clinician-led and creates resources for folks to get more support for any mental health needs. And one of those resources that we create is this podcast, Sessions.
Yay! As I like to tell everyone, it's Sessions with a Z. That's the
Yes.
easiest way to remember.
Mhm.
And we're switching some things up today, which we're excited about. We are starting a new series that we're going to be doing on occasion with Sapna and me. And we love our episodes with our guests. We've done, I think, 30 plus at this point. And we love our episodes that we've done with just Sapna and me too. We've just been having a lot of fun learning about how to be a podcaster and have our own Zessions podcast. But we also want to acknowledge that through the past, year or two now, we see that there's an opportunity for us to talk about how we use these sessions episodes that we've been on and just things that are happening in general and start to apply what we've learned and make some meaning in how what all of the content that we've talked about, how it's impacted our own lives and share a little bit more about our personal experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. We recognize that it can be helpful to hear how other people apply things, and it can be easier to understand things in that way. I know it helps me to do that, and I also want us to be able to have the freedom to acknowledge it can be really challenging to apply things in our lives, even us as therapists who are providing you this information. Like, it's kind of like when doctors are like the worst patients sometimes. Like, sometimes that happens in real
Mhm.
life too, even with therapists. So we want to acknowledge that it can be challenging sometimes, but it's also helpful to talk it out with a friend, a colleague, or even just yourself in your phone and your voice notes app.
Definitely.
And so it also doesn't hurt that Mandy and I get to just be us and be ourselves and kind of have conversations that like we kind of normally do, and also acknowledge our own humanness and successes and also struggles, even as therapists.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of struggles as
Plenty.
therapist. And I have clients ask all the time, like actually had a client last week say, "How are you so calm every time we meet?" And I told her, I'm like, that is my job is to show up as calm as I can. I'm like, you don't have to have your shit together, but that's part of my job is to have my shit together. So
At least
anyhow.
for those 50 minutes, right?
Oh, yes, I can that is my focus, that is my intention. But we're gonna going back to this new series, we're gonna be talking about different we're gonna be bringing up topics and episodes that have been weighing on us, be it that's just something that we've been thinking about a lot, it has a lot of relevance in our lives, or something that's just sparked a lot of interest as a follow-up to us having these conversations with all these amazing clinicians. And we hope to again, apply these to our learnings or just curiosities to our own lives and just take those conversations maybe a little bit further. And today we're going to be making meaning of episode 22. And that episode was when we had our friend and our fellow marriage and family therapist, Paola Ortiz. And this episode was all about building community. So if you haven't listened to it yet, or it's been a minute, and you need a little bit of a refresher, definitely go back and give that a listen. I was listening to it a little bit this morning again, and it always just sparks so many things that I haven't thought about or just need reminders for.
Yeah, I agree. I love that episode, and so we'll get to nerd out on how much we love that episode eventually. But yeah, some of these topics, the beauty of them is like they're relevant in some seasons, they're relevant in some situations and not in others, but whatever ones that are kind of on our heart a little extra, we'll use those, and maybe we'll repeat a couple here and there. Who knows? We'll see how it
Mhm.
goes. But before we dive into talking about that episode, I just want to check in. How are you doing, friend? How have you been taking care of yourself? Have you been taking care of yourself?
Oh, self-care. If you were living in my house right now, you're being like, "Are you okay, Mandy?" You have been cleaning a shit ton. And that would be the most accurate statement ever. And so, with self-care, it is surprising to me how much I have needed to minimalize things in my physical space. And it has been an undeniable pull coming from me where it is anytime I have extra. I feel it like, oh gosh, what is that stuff over there? Why is that sitting there? And it just pulls me in. And so that has been my self-care lately, Sapna, is just leaning into that and just getting rid of clutter. And I promise, I feel like it's making my brain feel better too.
Yeah, I love that for you so much. And especially if it's like one of those tangible things for you that you can like see the results of pretty immediately. But I know that's like a thing for you that it is really helpful for you on a regular basis if you can kind of work that in more routinely. I think it's helpful for all of us, but I know for me, I wish it were more of a like thing in the back of my head that weighs on me as much so that it motivates me to do it on a more regular basis. It definitely affects me better whenever I do it. I will say that is something that is on my heart and brain as far as an aspirational thing to me for me to work
Mhm.
on more because my own space is chaos. It's just pure chaos, and I need it to not be because there's enough of that in my world.
Does
So
that feel like self-care though to you to tackle it?
I think it will once it starts to happen and the momentum builds, but it gets really overwhelming to do it initially. So it doesn't feel like it initially, but I know once it happens and once I figure out like the systems and the routines of it, it will feel really, really good. Like once it actually
Mhm.
happens. But the process of doing it, unfortunately, for me, does not feel like the self-care that I usually tend to crave. That's not to say that it's not self-care actually, but it's not the self-care that I would I would willingly choose to engage in if I have a choice,
Mhm. Heard,
unfortunately.
heard that. What kind of self-care have you been craving lately though?
Um, I think what my self-care look lately has looked like is a lot more of kind of seeing people and just doing things. It's a little bit of also like just getting work done. Like I have a lot of things on my list that I'm trying to get done by the end of this month or on a week-to-week basis. And so allowing myself a little extra space for that even on weekends. That's been a little bit of self-care. That's not my norm, honestly. I usually try and put pretty good boundaries around like I'm not going to work on the weekends as much as possible, especially post graduation. Like
Hmm.
that was
Right.
such a norm in graduate student life that I that was a very intentional boundary that I tried to set for myself. Now that that's not the phase I'm in, but this month is a little bit different in that way of like I have a lot that I want to get done that I want to make sure gets done. Um, and oftentimes with my own ebbs and flows, it can be um it may not be as productive during the week too. So a little bit of catch up time if needed over the weekend. And I like to acknowledge that's often self care for people, especially if it's like weighing in their brains, like it is for me this month, but
Mhm.
it's not always for everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting for me that it's kind of like right now that is self care for me.
How does
As
it feel? Almost like you're surprised. You're like, yeah, I'm working on the weekends and I'm marking that or I'm putting that in my self-care column. That is maybe not what it looks like in other months, right?
Yeah, it really isn't.
Mhm.
That's not a norm self-care for me usually. Usually it's easier for me to like kind of block things out and just be like, okay, it didn't get done, but it will get done. And I'm gonna allow myself to like rest and enjoy in whatever form I want. And so yeah, it's different for sure, but it feels good. I think it's also a product of like my motivation to like get the things done that I want to. Um And so it's dedication to that part that's part of like
Mhm.
very realistic, logistical self-care for me at this
It
point.
is like on a
Um,
deep level. I
yes.
remember a conversation I had where a friend, another therapist friend said, like, not all self-care is sexy.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like self-care gets that rap where it's like if you're not getting massages or going to the spa or having this like luxurious self-care routine, then you're not taking care of yourself. And sometimes taking care of yourself was, I mean, that's something I did this morning was taxes. And I remember that's what she said. Like sometimes self-care is doing your taxes. And yes, I had to do my taxes, but I found a way to make it okay. I watched an episode of Abbott Elementary while I did my taxes. So finding some ways to kind of work the system a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true though, because you want self-care to be like the indulgent and like the fun things, but sometimes it really is just like checking off the boxes that are on your list that just need to get done so that you can function the way that you
Mhm.
deserve to as best as possible is very okay as counting as self-care. It may not be the most fun self-care, and there's very much different categories of that that ideally we'd be able to engage in, but um if it has to lean a little heavy in that way, that's fine.
Mhm.
I think finding the balance ideally is the thing. And so I know for me, I've been trying to balance it with like fun with friends and like
Mhm.
going out and getting out of the house and doing things and, game nights or co-working with friends, even if they're also in a busy phase in their lives. We're both trying to chase those goals or
You know
whatever.
it all day, all
Yeah.
night. Yes. Well, and you've been bringing this up a lot of as you've been talking about this, where part of your self-care has been being with others and also talking about phases and stages and and thinking about the episode that we listened to with or that we were on with Paola. That was something that one segment of it really stood out to me where it's like maybe self-care and connecting in community kind of combined is like I'm going with groups of people or groups with game nights or more social outings. And I think you even said, but sometimes it might just be you laying horizontally on the couch, and that is, and getting a meme from a friend, so there's still a connection point there, but it also is still self-care at the same time. And so I'd be curious to kind of hear when we think about community and we think about the self-care element to that, what have you been considering when it comes to like setting up all these events for yourself? Because right now, if I'm being completely honest, I'm like, you're doing more. I'm like, I'm doing less. I feel like I'm so booked. I just try not to book anymore.
Yeah, yeah, which makes sense. I mean, honestly, from our conversations of like how things have gone for you lately. So absolutely. And I know other friends who are also in that phase of let's schedule less things. Let's do less things. Let's spend more time with ourselves. And I feel like I ebb and flow in that. And or I am very much more of an introvert, and so that happens naturally for me if I don't have anything on the schedule. Like I end up doing that inherently anyways. So I think if there's like opportunities to spend time with friends, I tend to jump on them. Um, because if I'm feeling up to it, then like let's go.
Mhm.
But also I think it's been nice. And I think especially because they've been largely like in-person type of things, um, it's helped that connection and just getting out of that space of like go go go. I think that's part of it also maybe for me is because I'm trying to stay pretty focused on achieving certain things. Spending time with people in person is like a very intentional break away from that.
Mhm.
Almost a forced one in some ways for me. So maybe that's part of it too.
It's
That's
nice. It's almost like
literally.
this intentional moment to really disconnect. And so then it's like if you disconnect within the community, then going back to work feels a little bit like you're almost more rejuvenated by being
Yeah.
so intentional with it.
Yeah, genuinely. I feel like that's a large part of it. It truly is.
Mhm.
Yeah, what about for you?
I love that.
What does community look like for you, especially entering into this phase of scheduling less and maybe doing less? I don't know.
I say that, but I have something scheduled every single night this week. I'm like, what am I even saying? I think maybe I should reframe what I was actually trying to get at there is that there's something about community for me that ties in with frequency of like, what do I want my frequency to be? Do I want
Mm.
it to be, you said go, go, go. Like, do I want to be in the go, go, go mode? Or do I like what types of things am I lining up? And is it in that energy that I have available to expend? And so, I mean, we just went to a work trip for my husband. And so I was around a ton of people I didn't know and lovely people, great conversations. But I think coming down from that trip, I never really thought I was introverted, you know. I definitely know that I have a need now, especially past or post pandemic, where I'm like, whoa, my battery is lacking, my social battery, and so needing to definitely charge this week. And so maybe last week was more of a charge, have some really nice, like nourishing hangouts, like with my cousin, having dinner, and being able to just like be with my husband and my daughter at one point, and just, you know, that's not, I don't know if we would consider that community, but just like going to our restaurant that we go to all the time, Matt's El Rancho. It's always good. And it does, I mean, in some ways, maybe there is like some community feel about that, strangely, and bringing that in.
Yeah.
But how it looks is a little wild right now, but there is this conscious awareness that I think is part of the self-care right now for me is be really mindful about like what is my frequency almost in between the events that I have going on. How can I make sure that I'm slowing myself down and being really intentional with that downtime? Because I do feel like it is somewhat a busy season. And even as I'm saying that, you know, I'm excited about more and more type of social events in the fall and the holidays, but also I do feel like brace for impact. So yeah, there's something going on with me right now that feels a little maybe tired. Maybe I'm just tired today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we both are. So that makes a lot of sense too. But I also wonder, another potential reframe, what about the concept of communing with yourself, right? Like, I think doing that intentionally and knowing, and maybe that's tying back to like the self-care conversation, like, self-care and community can be solo endeavors if that's what you need in the moment, if that's what feels like healing for you or rejuvenating for you. Like, I think it doesn't have to be, and that's part of what we talked about with Paula, right? Is like, it doesn't have to be this specific idea of what community is, creating community is, building community is. It can be whatever you need it to be. We can create what that means for us. And so
Mhm.
I actually really love the idea of creating community, communing with yourself, communing with your family even too. I
Mhm.
think that also counts in my world. Uh Maybe biased as a marriage and family therapist, but also I think if that's being done intentionally and that feels rejuvenating for your soul too, like it counts in
You
my
always
world.
say things so eloquently.
I don't
One
know
of
if
the
that
many
makes
reasons I love you so much. I'm like, yes, I'm taking notes over here, people. But I think it's really like community is how are we able to commune with ourselves, but then also with each other. And I gotta say, right now, these books are really a big part of community, but maybe a smaller community. And I mean, I'm reading books from Allie Hazelwood to Ashley Poston, or however you say her name, to Rebecca Yarros. I mean, these books are taking me completely out of my brain of like work and home. It's amazing. But that's been a self-care for me and community at the same time because I can check in with my best friend on Marco Polo and talk about these books, talk about our obsession with these books. And at the same time, I am recognizing that that self-care category can lead a little into the fixation category, where my
sense.
brain is like, I mean, I had to withdraw, like stop myself from starting a new book because once I start reading, then it's like this, it becomes almost like this addiction of like, yes, I am like, I have the book. Okay. In between sessions, like, can I get like 3 minutes in? I can't wait to share with Stephanie what books I got from the library and like just so it's as I'm saying that, on one hand, it can distract me from things I need to be doing, but even as I say that, like I'm getting excited thinking about it. And so I think that's almost my intentional kind of assessment of, am I doing things that make me feel excited? But right now it is kind of like I'm doing a lot of these, reading is a pretty singular activity, you know, so I'm in my own little world, but there is still a bridge where I can find some community and, you know, friends sharing books with me and me sharing books with them. And I know you're into those books too, honey.
Uh-huh. No, you're totally right. I am. And the fixation piece is so real.
Oh,
I've
really?
gone down the route of the audiobooks more predominantly, but also just love reading as well. And so I love that you have like your support network too, who also nerd out on these books.
Mhm.
And I do too to a degree. I think you're part of that, honestly. We get to nerd out on
Yes,
some of
we
these
do,
reads and like
thankfully.
share
Hmm.
different titles as well, which is really fun. And so I think that is another form. Also, I've been thinking about that too, of like, especially in these phases of like we know what we need for self-care, but what can that look like out in community? And so there are like apparently like silent reading book clubs, I think is I don't remember if that's what it's called specifically, but silent book clubs, I think that's what it's called, of where you like can go to a brewery or a bar or something and everyone's just sitting there
Oh my
reading their
gosh,
own
this is
book for a little
fun.
bit. And then I think they take breaks sometimes and like you can chat with each other about your book or anything else for like 10 minutes or so and then go back to it. And I'm like, that sounds amazing actually, of like if you want to be in community but you don't actually want to necessarily have to engage or like have the social anxiety and still get to do your self-care thing of reading, which for both of us has been a big
Mhm.
thing this season right now too. Like there are ways to do it in community too. I say that I have not yet tried it, but I've been meaning to. I've been meaning to. I think the places I found have done it only on specific days that I haven't been able to go, but um it's been on my list. It's been on my list, but also just being able to talk to your people about what you're reading, like whether
Mhm.
they're also reading it or not, like it's another form of fun and community.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I feel like there's there's so many different versions that we talked about in the episode with Paola. And one thing that I thought would be good to bring up that has been heavy on me lately is that there is an element of going out that I feel a little unnerved right now. The heaviness of what's happening in the world and violent, so much scary stuff happening just everywhere and constantly. And I found myself today even thinking like, man, this is in a lot of the episode we talked with Paola about how do you show up somewhere where you feel safe, you feel seen, you feel that you belong, your identities are in connection with others. And but safety was such a key word. And I do feel like right now I'm like, yes, these all these ideas sound so great. Let's get out in the community. Let's be with others who, because I want to be with people who align with, you know, the interest or with values. And even in some of those exercises, or that's like a way formal way of saying, or just like things that we would go do together, it does feel just like sort of scary right now. And not just right now. I mean, that's some of my privilege coming to acknowledge that it's been scary for many for forever, and it feels extra dicey. Yeah,
Yeah,
what are you feeling? How has it been impacting you?
100%. I appreciate you acknowledging that because 100% that's honestly, now that you're saying that out loud, I feel like that has been kind of underlying a lot of like the slow pieces or like the very intentional, like, I would love to go out in public and just sit and read. And I think that will be fine doing so. But for me, it's like a little bit twofold. There tends to be like a little bit of, as a woman, especially if I'm going somewhere by myself, like, is safety going to be present? And then also, like you said, with the state of the world right now and how it's been in recent years, how it's been building within this past year even, um, it is a little nerve-wracking. It's a little extra nerve-wracking, maybe even more so. Again, a little bit of my privilege too, of like it's way more than nerve-wracking for a lot of people, and even growing so for me and a lot of my loved ones, um, to just go and hang out places and be as casual doing things. And so in that way, it does make that much more sense to kind of be in I'm gonna take it slow. I'm gonna kind of stay in my cave and create community with myself and my family and you know, meet friends at their places and that type of thing. Maybe not as publicly, but just more casually in whatever settings that do feel comfortable and safe, as much as you can find that right now. But
Mhm.
I think that is really important to acknowledge that it's not as easy to even find spaces to form community or create community, or you're worried about even in your own home sometimes. It can be really scary to just exist. um and so it's so much easier said than done, but I think that's why what Paula said resonated that much more, of like, community doesn't have to be any preconceived notion. It can be what you need it to be, and it can change from day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. It can shift, and
Yeah.
you get to decide what feels like community to you. Um, and so I will say that I think for me personally, there's also a lot within that I would like to create more intentionally too, but kind of just have to respect my own capacity for that too, and know that like when the opportunity arises, I can pursue more of those chances to create community more intentionally in a way that maybe feels a little more traditional. But for the time being, like, save your energy, build your capacity, build your momentum, and do what you need to in this moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's like what do I need, and letting that be the main compass. What's going to help me feel the most connected or the greatest sense of belonging. And I think that for me, the end goal of community is that collective empowerment, so that when the world does get scary and feel really heavy, you feel connected and stronger because
Yeah.
of that collectivism of you aren't in it alone. There are more good people that you can connect with to help, be a barrier, a guard, a protection coat
Mhm.
for, but ultimately we have to be able to inspect first and kind of gauge like what are those spaces and who are those people for us. But
Yeah.
I think it's just as I always love to say, is getting curious, starting
Yes.
there.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think it is also worth acknowledging too that we need to take care of ourselves in order to sustain creating the communities that we aspire to as well. Like,
Hmm.
if we push ourselves outside of our capacity, whether it's with a feeling of sense of urgency and or hopelessness of what's going on, um, any of the above, really, we can't help anyone if we're burning out and or not doing what we can to honor our nervous system and its needs
Hmm.
whenever we have the opportunity to. And so allowing ourselves the chance to go slow if and when we can, so that we can be in this for the long haul, for being there for our community and for being a good neighbor in some more traditional senses too,
Hmm.
advocating for what we believe in. It starts with you having the capacity and not burning out and crashing out, because
Yeah.
oftentimes that might be what other people are going for, and slowing you down
Mhm.
too. So just
Right. It's
a
such a
friend.
delicate dance to
It
figure out
really,
what's the right balance.
yeah.
The way I think of this too is internal resources is what you're describing to me, or how I would think of it for myself of like how full are my internal resources? And if I'm feeling low on my internal resources, there is some connection with external resources, and that being a way of helping you kind of feel a boost within all of this. So I think it's
Mhm.
focus on your internal resources, but also I do feel just held by community and knowing that again, based on, everything that we've talked about, community doesn't have to be large groups. It can be one or two people that you just kind of know, okay, I'm not fully resourced today. I'm doing what I can to take care of myself and try to refuel my own tank. And thankfully, I have these other metaphorical kind of arms around me that are holding. And it can be just one. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite takeaways from that episode
Yes.
was that it's does not have to be something lavish or big or showy. It can just be whatever your heart needs.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be the one person that's kind of holding you up a little bit when it's hard for you to do so yourself. So, yeah, lean into what you need in this moment. I think that
Yeah.
was another big takeaway. Lean into what you need. And I think
Mhm.
I'm glad that you're doing that for yourself. And it also helped me to talk about this to remind myself that that is what I'm doing, and it changes season to season, and
Mhm.
especially in this day and age and these days and ages
Mhm.
recently, it's that much more important for us to like be able to know what we need and take care of that so that we can continue taking care of each other. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
this was lovely getting to talk to you, Sabna.
I know,
And
it
thank
really
you all
was.
for being here with us and listening to us just think and feel and discuss and
Yeah,
make meaning of just such a great conversation with that we had with Paola. And she still goes on in history as like the community queen. She's just
absolutely.
so authentic and so real and has truly inspired me so much to just continue to put myself out there because I tend to when overwhelmed or in that state of burnout, I'm like, nah, I'm good. But
Yeah.
it all can kind of interconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out. She's such an inspiration for that. And Queen for providing those opportunities for us, and an inspiration for us continuing to try and do what we can to create community amongst
Mhm.
clinicians as well through Zesho. So shout out on
Mhm.
both ends. We got to give ourselves some credit for that too.
Yeah.
Whatever small ways we can. But yes, thanks everyone for joining us on this conversation. It was so fun to have this with you, Mandy, actually. Like this is something that I feel like you and I would talk about at like some random time when we're meeting. So it's fun to have this
Good.
conversation a little more intentionally too, and
Mhm.
like
I
have other
know.
people joining us for it.
I know. Good food for
Um,
thought.
Absolutely. So, anyways, we'd love to hear from y'all, your thoughts on if this was anything that you got anything out of, but even if not, Mady and I did, so there's that. But regardless, if this conversation or any of our other episodes have been helpful for you, feel free to follow, rate, subscribe, share. We really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. It also helps other people find us and the resources we're trying to make more accessible. And on top of that, we would love to hear your feedback. We're always looking to grow and improve and see what we can do and do better and be more helpful with. So feel free to send us some feedback. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Our handle is at myzesho on all of those. You could also check out our mental health resources at our website, which is zesho.com. That's ZESSIO.com.
There you go. Well done.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you,
Mandy.
everyone. We'll talk with you soon.
Bye.